so you have a lot of reporters, as you mentioned, they don't really know the true Chinese story, or they don't want to refuse to tell the true story. From your point of view, your interaction with them, they refuse to tell simply because they really believe, they don't believe there is such a story, and they tell exactly what they think was the story, or they actually knew the story, but they just refuse to tell, because there is a tremendous difference between the two, right?
Let me answer that. They know the truth, but there is a party line. I mean, if you see Fox, you get one narrative.
Yeah.
If you see CNN, you get another narrative. If you see the BBC, you get another narrative. There is an editorial preference for what they want to hear and what they want to purvey to the public. The BBC tends to be very much in the pocket of the Conservative government, the Tories, and the people who run the BBC want that party line. If a so-called independent journalist from the BBC departs from that, and so, let me tell you a story. And I interviewed a guy. He had just come back. He was in New York. He was a young American, 32 years old. He'd spent the last 4 years. This was for Better Angels. Last 4 years in China. I said, "Why'd you come back?" He said, "I love China, but I was starving." I said, "Why were you starving?" He said, "Because I could only sell stories where China was the villain. Every time I sent them," because he was a fan of China. He was impressed. It's Chinese people didn't give a damn about the Chinese government. This was about the Chinese people. And every time he sent in a story, he was a print journalist. This wasn't film. This was stories in magazines. And he said every time he sent in a story about something extraordinary that he stumbled upon in China, he wrote a story about it, he could not give it away. He could not give it away. And he just got fed up of having to write negative stories about China. Do you remember when the bullet train went off he made a fortune.
I see.
Because that was something that he could write about, and it was true. It was a mistake. It was a terrible tragedy. That was something that they liked because the Chinese had failed in some way. They'd fallen short. The great progress of China had been halted by this era. So he couldn't stand it, and he just said, "The hell with it. I'm going back to the States." And that is the reality right now. BBC hews to the Tory line, and the Tory line is that China is the enemy. And CNN is a joke, and Fox is a disgrace.